In 2020, archaeologists began excavating near the village of Ras al-Kharakhir in northern Kuwait. What they found stopped them cold: massive stone walls emerging from the sand, fortification towers, a systematic street grid. And as they kept digging, the scale became staggering. This wasn't a settlement or a village. It was a complete Bronze Age city, preserved almost exactly as it was roughly 4,500 years ago. The city spans over 35 acres with walls up to 5 meters thick. But here's what makes this discovery revolutionary. The architectural sophistication rivals anything we've seen from Bronze Age Mesopotamia, the supposed cradle of civilization, except this city was built in what we thought was empty desert. And the preservation is so perfect that archaeologists are finding streets, buildings, and infrastructure intact after 4,500 years. We're not looking at ruins. We're looking at a snapshot of Bronze Age urban life frozen in time. The discovery. Let's start with what makes this find so extraordinary. The Polish-Kuwaiti archaeological mission, led by Dr. Piotr Bielewski from the University of Warsaw, began systematic excavations in 2020. The site, now called Al-Khidr, sits near Kuwait's northern coast, and what emerged from the sand was immediately recognizable as something major. The city covers more than 35 acres, with defensive walls measuring up to 5 meters thick in places. That's over 16 feet thick walls built to withstand serious sieges. Archaeologists uncovered 4 massive fortification towers positioned at strategic points around the perimeter, creating overlapping fields of defense. But here's where it gets fascinating. The internal layout shows deliberate urban planning. The streets form an organized grid pattern, not the organic winding paths you'd expect from gradual settlement growth. This was designed before construction began. Someone surveyed the site, planned the districts, and coordinated builders across decades to execute a unified vision. Dr. Bielewski's team found residential quarters, administrative buildings, religious structures, and what appears to be a central marketplace, all arranged in functional zones. The residential areas contain multi-room houses with interior courtyards, storage facilities, and what archaeologists believe are workshop spaces for craftspeople. The preservation is almost unbelievable. In many Bronze Age sites, you're lucky to find foundation stones and pottery fragments. At Al-Khidr, walls still stand to their original heights. Floors remain intact. Doorways are preserved exactly where ancient occupants walked through them 4,500 years ago. Dr. Bielewski noted, the state of preservation is exceptional. We can see the complete layout of the city, which is extremely rare for sites of this age. The Timeline. Carbon dating and ceramic analysis place Al-Khidr's occupation during the early Bronze Age, specifically between 2500 and 2000 BC. That's roughly contemporary with the height of ancient Egyptian pyramid construction and the Akkadian Empire in Mesopotamia. To put that in perspective, when this city was thriving, Stonehenge was still being built. The Minoan civilization on Crete was just beginning. The city of Troy, yes, that Troy was in its early phases. But here's what makes the timeline significant. This isn't just another Bronze Age site. Al-Khidr represents the earliest evidence of large-scale urbanization in the Arabian Gulf region. Before this discovery, conventional archaeology placed major Bronze Age development along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in Mesopotamia, with the Gulf region playing a secondary role as a trading outpost. Al-Khidr's scale and sophistication suggest that assumption might be fundamentally wrong. The city existed for approximately 500 years before being abandoned around 2000 BC. 5 centuries of continuous occupation that's longer than the United States has existed. Generation after generation lived, worked, traded, and built within these walls. The architecture and engineering. Let's talk about what it actually took to build something like this in 2500 BC. The fortification walls alone represent a massive engineering undertaking. Archaeologists estimate that thousands of tons of stone were quarried, transported, and precisely fitted into defensive structures spanning the city's perimeter. This required organized labor forces, supply chains for materials, and skilled masons who understood structural engineering. But it's not just the walls. The internal infrastructure shows systematic planning that we typically associate with much later civilizations. The street grid suggests surveyors who could measure angles and distances accurately. The water management system, including what appear to be cisterns and drainage channels, indicates hydraulic engineering knowledge. Excavations revealed standardized building techniques across different quarters of the city. Walls were constructed using similar methods. Foundations followed consistent patterns. Room dimensions showed recurring proportions, evidence that builders were working from shared architectural standards. Dr. Bieliszki's team found evidence of specialized workshops within residential districts. One area contained large quantities of copper working debris slag, crucibles, and finished tools. Another district showed signs of textile production with loom weights and spinning tools. This tells us something crucial. Al-Khidr wasn't just big, it was economically complex. Different neighborhoods specialized in different crafts. That level of economic differentiation requires central coordination, trade networks, and a society sophisticated enough to support non-agricultural specialists. The religious structures are particularly revealing. Archaeologists uncovered what appears to be a temple complex with altar areas, offering tables and storage rooms for ceremonial objects. The architecture suggests formalized religious practices and a priestly class with enough resources to construct and maintain dedicated sacred spaces. ACT4. The trade networks. Now here's where this discovery gets even more interesting. The artifacts tell a story of international trade on a scale nobody expected for this region and time period. Excavations uncovered pottery from Mesopotamia, carnelian beads from the Indus Valley, and copper ingots that chemical analysis traces to Oman. These aren't local materials. They're imported goods from civilizations hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away. The Mesopotamian pottery matches styles from and Uruk, major city-states in what's now southern Iraq. The Indus Valley beads come from the Harappan civilization in modern-day Pakistan and northwest India, one of the Bronze Age's most advanced societies. The copper from Oman suggests Al-Khidr was part of a maritime trading network spanning the Arabian Gulf. But it's not just what they imported, it's what they exported. Chemical analysis of ceramic fragments found at Mesopotamian sites matches clay from the Kuwait region, suggesting Al-Khidr's merchants were shipping goods northward. Dr. Bieliszki's team believes Al-Khidr functioned as a critical trading hub connecting Mesopotamia with the Arabian Peninsula and potentially the Indus Valley. The city's coastal location gave it access to maritime routes, while its fortifications protected valuable trade goods passing through. Think about what that means logistically. In 2500 BC, without GPS, modern navigation, or even accurate maps, merchants were coordinating multi-stop voyages across the Arabian Gulf. They were calculating values for different commodities, negotiating exchange rates between civilizations using different measurement systems, and maintaining commercial relationships across cultural boundaries. The economic sophistication required for that is staggering. AECT5. Why was it abandoned? Around 2000 BC, after 500 years of occupation, Al-Khidr was abandoned. But here's what makes it unusual. There's no evidence of violent destruction. Archaeologists found no burn layers indicating fire, no scattered human remains suggesting warfare or disease, no signs of earthquake damage. The city appears to have been gradually depopulated rather than suddenly destroyed. Dr. Bieliszki's team has a working theory: climate change. Around 2000 BC, the Middle East experienced what's called the 4.2 kiloyear evento-severe aridification period that lasted several centuries. Rainfall decreased dramatically. Temperatures rose. Agricultural systems that had supported urban populations for generations began failing. evidence from the excavation supports this. The upper occupation layers show declining building quality and fewer imported goods, suggesting economic stress before abandonment. People weren't fleeing suddenly, they were slowly leaving as conditions became unsustainable. This climate event didn't just affect Al-Khidr. Around the same time, the Akkadian Empire in Mesopotamia collapsed. Egyptian Old Kingdom authority weakened. The Indus Valley civilization began its decline. Environmental change was reshaping the entire Bronze Age world. But the perfect preservation of Al-Khidr gives us something unique, a detailed snapshot of how climate change affected urban societies 4,000 years ago. We can see the stress patterns in building maintenance. We can trace the reduction in long-distance trade goods. We can observe the gradual economic contraction before final abandonment. And that might be the most valuable insight this city offers us. ACT 6. What this discovery means. So let's step back and look at the bigger picture. Al-Khidr fundamentally challenges where we thought Bronze Age civilization developed. Kuwait and the Gulf region were not peripheral backwaters receiving culture from Mesopotamia. They were independent urban centers with their own architectural traditions, economic systems, and international trade networks. The level of planning visible in Al-Khidr's layout suggests bureaucratic systems capable of long-term coordination. The specialized workshops indicate economic complexity. The fortifications demonstrate military organization. The imported goods prove international connections. This is full-spectrum, state-level organization in a region we largely dismissed as nomadic desert. And here's the sobering part. We almost never found it. Al-Khidr survived because desert conditions preserved it. How many other Bronze Age cities didn't get that lucky? How many urban centers existed in regions where organic materials decomposed, where later construction destroyed earlier layers, where erosion erased all surface traces? Dr. Bielski's team estimates they've excavated less than 10% of the site. The city likely extends far beyond what's currently mapped. Every season brings new discoveries, new buildings, new artifacts, new evidence of capabilities we didn't know Bronze Age societies possessed. The implications extend beyond archaeology. Al-Khidr's abandonment due to climate change offers a case study in how environmental stress affects urban societies. We can see exactly how a thriving city with sophisticated infrastructure, international trade, and centuries of stability responded to changing conditions. That's not ancient history, that's a warning. Compligation. A Bronze Age city emerged from Kuwait's desert, preserved almost perfectly for 4,500 years. It shows urban planning, fortification engineering, economic specialization, and international trade networks operating at scales we never expected for this region and time period. It challenges everything we thought about where civilization developed. It proves that Bronze Age societies were far more interconnected than traditional archaeology suggested. And it demonstrates that sophisticated urban cultures can flourish in environments we considered marginal and can also collapse when those environments change. Al-Khidr isn't just a discovery. It's a rewrite of Bronze Age history. Every wall they uncover, every artifact they catalogue, every street they map adds detail to our understanding of how ancient societies actually functioned. And we've only excavated 10% of it. What else is buried under that sand? What other cities existed that we haven't found yet? What other civilizations built, traded, and thrived in places we assumed were empty? The desert is starting to give up its secrets, and they're spectacular. What aspects of Bronze Age life do you think we'll discover next? Drop your thoughts below.